How you guys doing? Welcome to episode 4. I'm Alex, and that is
Man Cobra, Johnny.
Johnny Tech, as I call him.
This is going to be a long episode because this is what you guys have been asking for, a more technical, in-depth history, breakdown, technical, all the specs on these 5.2s.
What we're going to do to them, the items that we'll be using, a little bit behind the scenes of our engine development. For you guys that, get bored easy and don't want to learn, this is probably the wrong episode for you to watch. But if you want to learn and know some cool shit about what goes into these 5.2 liters, what it takes to make power, and all the cool stuff that Johnny has to deal with that I get to just hound him about, then you want to watch, because there's a lot of cool behind the scene things that I feel a lot of people really don't share.
No, a lot of people don't share it, but
I don't know why they don't share it.
These
it's
are
just an
old
engine.
engines, 10 plus years on this 5.2 platform. The architecture dates back 25 years. 2009 is the first year.
Of the 5.2 liter?
5.2. But this engine itself, the architecture dates back to 1994.
Name the car.
It's the first A5. It was an A5, yeah, in Europe.
It had the same cam, like everything?
Everything. Other than DI. DI is the only big revision.
So DI was introduced in LP.
Yeah. Well, that was to Audi itself. It was 07.
Right. But I mean, we had pre-LP that was just single port injection, and then LP, which is 09 and newer. Because some of the 08s are considered LP.
Yeah, they are. I mean,
some of them don't have port injection.
With Lamborghini, it's really, really scarce on the 08, 09 stuff because
that's when VW bought out Lambo, right?
No, that was in 2002. Oh. But when they really put an Audi into there, that was 08, 09, and then that's when they saw they could make money because the Gallardo was their first profitable car. So basically, this is the walkthrough.
Damon's calling me. I gotta hurry. Anyways, we're gonna take it from here. Watch. You're gonna love it. And I gotta go. Damon. Yep.
So you guys have been asking for more of these technical videos, and this should be the holy grail of the 5.2. We have different versions of it in different states. This is the same exact platform across Audi and Lamborghini. This is a bare block here. The origins of this motor, man, this thing's like 25 years old. It's a modular engine by design by the Volkswagen Group. So this is the same basic block that you would find in a 6, an 8, or a 10 cylinder. They just kind of lob off the cylinders. And what makes this different from other rival engines is the fact that the chain drive, they were the first to develop chain drive on the opposite end. Instead of being on the front end of the motor, it's actually on the back end of the motor with the flywheel. So take that cover off. This is the same architecture. Like I said, you can go back 25 years. They've made revisions on it, but it's basically the same thing. It's tried and true, works well. They're aluminum block, liquid sleeves. This one's a 5.2 liter. Basically, the piston, the diameter of the bore is 84.5. The stroke in the actual chamber is 92.8 in the there, making it 5.2. Obviously, they could change by whether it be the other 4.2, the V8, the V6, all those engines. They just change the bore and the stroke, changing the displacement. But we're talking about the Lamborghini or the Audi here, so it's 5.2. On the front side, which is the rear side of the engine, is where all the timing components are. I have one here partially disassembled. And I'll kind of walk you guys through that. These engines have what is their overhead cam, quad valve. So it's 2 intake, 2 exhaust valves. Overhead intake design. They have direct injection as well as port injection. Port injections for basically to help remedy carbon buildup, so keep it away. And then they're self-adjusting lifters. So there's no adjustments in there. There's no valve adjustment on these engines for the most part, unless they're higher mileage. And at that point, we could check the latch, but rarely see that. They have variable valve timing on the front, again on the chain drive, and then to rotate it over. Since there isn't much room on these engines, and for efficiency, they run only a liquid cooled alternator off of the crank. That is the only serpentine driven accessory on these engines. Everything else is chain driven. That's for efficiency, so the drag is less. In the front end, this is the chain drive. It looks super complicated, but when you actually get into it, it's pretty simple. Down here, this is called the spur gear. So it drives on this engine only, it drives the AC. It has a block off there on the R8. That's where you find the power steering pump. So that's also, they're both driven by the spurs here. I'll show you a unit in a second. This is your balance shaft. And then this is your actual crank drive, which is called, they call it the power driver, power transfer. And then this is your cam. That's your cam drive. And then these are your tensioners there, oil filter housing. And then obviously the bottom end, I'll show you a little bit more. This is the crank. It has 10 counterweights. It's pretty light for what they are for a 10-cylinder engine. This is the lower bed plate. These engines are dry sump, so opposed to a regular engine that has an oil pan, this one actually doesn't have anything at the bottom of it. All it does have are ports for the dry sump. That's going to be the oil pump there, and the oil pump is coupled with also the water pump. So I'll show you that in a second. And then you got your lower crank girdle. This all comes apart. It's casted as one and then laser cut to ensure trueness. Again, these engines are really well balanced. That is why, I mean, the pistons themselves, they're really light. Lightness, when you have a less rotational mass, you can rev higher. These engines, they're a 12 to 5 compression from the factory on stock internals. I'll show you more of the lower end stuff that I've shown you. This is the spur gear again, and then that's what drives the AC. You won't lose having the AC on or off. That's why you won't ever lose power. It's designed that way. These are the camshafts. They're pressed on lobes. They're actually tubular camshafts. These are the lifters with the rocker arms, and then the valve. This is how it adjusts the valves via solenoid and oil pressure. And then this here is the actual oil pump and water pump unit. Obviously separate, they're not mixing, but the front half here, they're both driven by the power takeoff unit, which is this guy here. That's the power takeoff unit. So that drives the oil pump and it drives the water pump. This is the lower oil girdle again. This is the flywheel here. But basically, this is the same engine, like I said.
Doesn't know what he's talking about.
This is Todd. Todd builds the baddest Vipers. Flex from Todd. Oh, we got no flex.
Flex from.
This is the man right here. Yeah, we got nothing.
This shirt barely fit. I didn't get on his
Workout plan, yo.
Oh my God, he's ripped.
So check this out. As you guys know, Johnny's in charge of all the building and all that stuff. That's where he shines. So my background, I come from motorsports, drag racing. So there's no difference between a 4-cylinder engine, a 6-cylinder, a 10-cylinder. It's all a 4-stroke engine. So don't let the internet hype you up. It's all the same thing. A couple different things is some are roller rocker followers, some are radius rocker followers, flat tappet followers. So on this is what you call a roller rocker, okay? So this has a radius to it that then gets you the desired lift at the valve. So my background, this might sound like gibberish to you, but I worked at a performance camshaft manufacturer for many years, started as a broom pusher and worked myself all the way up to research and development. So where I shine is actually valve train. So how it works in an engine is essentially a short block is just to withstand the power. The power comes from the cylinder head. Cylinder ports, clearly compression does play a factor, but it all comes down to the cylinder heads, camshaft, valve sizing, etc. So what we're gonna do with our packages is we're not gonna do the basic stuff, which is a very common thing you do. You know, a billet rod, a forged piston, flat top, aftermarket valve train. We're gonna take it a little bit further just because my knowledge comes for that. Is it really needed? No, but the objective is to get as much air as you can in the cylinder and out of the cylinder as quick as we can. So, first and foremost, we're gonna do a forged flat top piston, forged rod, race bearings, all micro-polished factory OEM crankshaft. Be good for about 1350, 1400 horsepower. Then the cylinder head, we're going to run free of valve train, dual valve springs, retainers. We're going to change to a stainless 1mm size oversize on the intake and the exhaust. And the most important thing, which I find the coolest thing, is we all like RPM. Now on a big turbo car, you could literally, I mean, back in the, you know, I'm going to refer to the Honda days. Back in the day, we put big turbos on cars and use factory camshafts and rev them at 10,000. And we just rev them that high because we needed to. It didn't matter the dyno graph if it leaned over or not. Lamborghinis is the same thing. They kind of nose over right around 8,000 RPM. So now that we're, you know, going to see more boost, we kind of want a little bit more RPM to have a little bit longer gear. So what we're going to do is make billet camshafts with more duration and lift, okay? The factory stuff is great, but what I'm gonna do is measure the lobe center line, because you gotta remember, these camshafts, this engine was designed for naturally aspirated. It wasn't designed for turbo, right? So what we're gonna do is, on a naturally aspirated engine, you run tight lobe center lines, okay? You run a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna do is measure the lobe center lines. I'm gonna open them up a couple degrees. I'm gonna add probably 10 to 12 degrees of duration and about 20 to 30 thousandths more of lift. Now, you're wondering why I'm gonna do that, spend the extra money to add this to our package. Because essentially, if I can make more power at less pounds of boost, things are happier, right? So if I'm able to get an additional 15, 20% more air, that's 15, 20% more power, less boost, more efficient, things are happy. We're not blowing intake manifolds, et cetera, et cetera.
Cooler cylinder temperatures.
Yeah, so this is where I feel we shine because of the backing that we have in cylinder head developing. It's gonna be cool. Not that you can't make power with the factory cam, you can make a lot of power, just turn the boost up. The key to me is to make as much power as you can at lower boost levels. So I'm gonna use my resources with camshafts. So I'm gonna keep those to myself but if you know me, you know my background, you probably know what company I'm talking about. So with that being said, I know Johnny explained to you the OEM stuff. Another thing with the short block is gonna get rid of the factory liners and replace them with Darton liners. We're gonna run ARP head studs, ARP main studs, factory girdle. So on stage 3 is gonna be around 1300, 1400 horsepower, just keep the transmission happy. The factory DCT gear set does not like anything above that. So we're gonna keep them happy together and just make them last. On our personal build that we'll then get into later, my personal car, we're gonna do much bigger turbos, billet crankshaft, and all that stuff. So for now, we'll just take you one step at a time, explaining the differences from the OEM drivetrain to the aftermarket drivetrain. We'll do the stage 3. Another thing is, you gotta remember, back to it being factory, these are what, 12.8, 13?
12.5 compression.
12.5 compression. That's a lot of piston
for a
dome.
boost in there.
You know, to kind of give you an example, our cars make 800 wheel horsepower with 5 pounds of boost, right? 5 pounds of boost is nothing. So
that's where your compression comes from. So going to a flat top piston.
We're probably gonna be around 10.0 compression, right? And most importantly, we don't need a high compression because we're shoving boost in it. And most importantly, running a flatter piston, we could, use more timing in the engine. We don't have to, kill the timing like we do now with the factory engines. Other than that, I think that covers pretty much everything. As you can see, the valve spring in this thing, that's a single valve spring that they run out of factory. Yeah. Again, great for naturally aspirated. We're gonna go to a dual. We're gonna go to a titanium retainer. We're gonna go to a stainless seat, stainless valve, and we might even change the valve seats to like a beryllium seat. I think for that kind of power we'll be okay, but to keep things nice and cool, beryllium, it works much better. This might sound like a lot of gibberish. Sorry guys. We'll back it up. But I think that's all. What do you think?
I mean, that was pretty much all the weak points that we already covered. Was the pistons. Like I said, in a stock format, they're great. They're light. Harmonics is very, very good on these engines, but
I'm gonna interrupt them. One other thing that we're gonna do is, you see this is called a pin bushing. So the pin bushing we'll use, the inner diameter will be smaller. It'll be a heavy duty pin bushing to handle that abuse from the rod and the piston being bent down. Other than that, we use the factory timing components. We just switch all the rails to brand new stuff because they wear. Brand new tensioners. Pretty simple, right? Sounds
I already covered from head to sump, which you guys already saw. So, and like I said, they're good engines. There's no issue with them. But once you start turning up the power with it, like anything, obviously stuff needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, you know, 800, 900 horsepower, we're cool.
They respond well.
But, you know, anything above that, I've taken my personal car above 1,000 on a factory engine, and that puppy liked to knock, even with MS-109 fuel. So, you know, I pushed the limits of the factory engine. You know, our stage 1 and stage 2 packages work great, but now it's offering a stage 3 package to the customer and be able to beat up on it and reliable, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I know we're really late to the show, and we're not innovators, I'll tell you that much right now. As we all know, the other guys have been doing this for a long time and built some fast cars, you know, and a lot of respect towards them. It's always great to see what they do every year. The only thing we're trying to do is we're actually just offering what we can to our customers that make them happy and reliable and make some power. And slowly and surely we'll get to the big, you know, 2,000, 2,500 plus horsepower builds. We just kind of have to get there slowly because we're all self-funded, you know, I mean, not that nobody isn't, but all this stuff, all the development comes out of my personal pocket. I don't develop on customer cars, nothing like that. So I still got a life, you know, and kids, mortgages. So building these things ain't cheap. One last thing I'm gonna cover is the exhaust manifold. As you guys know, we started building turbo kits. So one thing we happen to know is cylinder length, the difference between form collectors, merge collectors, billet collectors, handmade collectors. These things under this heat shield is just a 18 gauge stainless thin wall. And the collector that all 5 cylinders merge into is just a form collector. So a form collector, imagine a 5-inch piece of tube. And there's round slots so you can put each runner into it, and it's just open in there. That's not really ideal for power. So what we're gonna do for our stage 3 off-road race strictly cars is make our own exhaust manifold, and it'll be made out of 321 Inconel stainless, equal length runner, because I do know some of these runners down here are shorter, which cause the EGTs to get higher in some cylinders versus the others. The objective is to get equal length, and on top of that, we're gonna use dual slip fit collectors. Dual slip fit collector is just the baddest collector money can buy. It flows very good. As we all know, 321 stainless Inconel is great. So equal length 321 manifold with dual slip fit collector with about a 3.5-inch outlet on the dual slip to be able to merge to then the turbo at that point. So we're gonna get rid of all this stuff, all this factory stuff. Works well, but at big power levels, you don't want to band-aid cylinders. So what I mean by band-aiding, in the tune, if one cylinder is hotter than the other, we will then dump fuel into that cylinder, right? And usually those things happen because of runner design or hotter cylinders. So the objective is to get all cylinders to be equal length, so we could kind of get them all to burn the same, have the same temperature, et cetera, et cetera. You're always gonna band-aid a cylinder or two, it's nothing wrong with it, but you don't want a 10% or higher margin of band-aiding, because at that point, you have a efficiency in what you have going on.
Well, once you get to hotter heat ranges itself, the engine stops to lose power, so. Yeah. And that's going back earlier what we were talking about the knock sensors, how advanced they are with the ion sensing coils. Yeah, that is what actually counters that. That's what tells the engine dump more fuel to cool it. Fuel
or pull timing. You know, you can pull timing out of cylinders as well. That's a whole nother ball game we'll get into.
We already talked about that. We're gonna do a whole on tuning and what it takes.
We are?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that stuff.
Well, it's not giving out the secrets, but obviously, you know.
I'll tell you the basics.
Yeah, the basics and understanding, because a lot of people out there are just curious. They might not want to take on the role of Mr. Wizard here, you know. That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of pressure to be a tuner. But
look at all this gray hair. Huh?
Yeah, both of us, man. Look at that.
You dye your hair white.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, maybe coming soon.
All right. Anyways, so in stage 3, it's another thing you're gonna get is 321 Inconel manifolds, dual slip fit collectors, equal length runners. None of this OEM stuff. I gotta go.
And remember, keep the flow. There's the flow. If anyone was wondering where the flow is, that's where the flow is. And if we get enough likes too, we're gonna do a rebuild vlogs on my Impala.
Throttle cable linkage on the carburetor is sticky. It has drum brakes. It goes to give some gas, it sticks. Full throttle, those brakes can't stop this car into a bread shop.
It's the steering shaft. It just, when I hit, it snapped. The steering wheel hit me in the chin and the chest.
Okay, so I see some tire marks. And are these the trucks? These two?
Those are two trucks.
So here's the Impala coming. As you can see, it won't slow down, and boom. Okay, so that's where the first impact was, and then it ended here.
Not RIP, man.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Anyways, Thanks for watching. I think that covers everything. Hit
Like,
that up.
like, share, subscribe, and tell your sister
And
or
I
your grandma.
Grandmas.
Grandma.
Hey, grandmas are getting younger
Yeah,
and
they
younger
are.
these days.
They
There's
are.
one lady at my Starbucks. Oh, she looked pretty good, and she's like, "Oh, my grandkids are coming over." I was like, "Oh, what the hell, grandkids?"
Grandmas can get it.
Johnny's all about it. Not me. I'm happily in a relationship.
Yeah, I am too. I'm just saying, you know, you gotta appreciate women.